Look who's here.
Hi.
Welcome back and thanks for being here. My name is Scott. This is my wife, Joanne, and we are in Central California. I arrived a few days ago and I went up and explored the Sequoia National Forest. I've already told you about that in another video. Went up to the airport and grabbed my wife, and then I picked her up and brought her with me. And we've been busy. The very next day we went straight to my mother's storage unit and started going through everything. And there was a couple of key things that we wanted to make sure we brought home with us, and then there was, again, whatever else it was that she wanted to bring. I think every time I heard her go, I was like, oh gosh, here goes something else. Or she'd go, oh, and I'd be like, oh no, there's something else. So I was concerned about going overweight. We wrote down the weight, we weighed everything before it went into the trailer, and surprisingly, we did not exceed weight. I mean, even loading, there were some bookcases there that I didn't expect to bring home. They're solid wood and 25 pounds a piece. I mean, they're not large bookcases, but you know, that's another 100 pounds that I didn't even think about bringing home. But the cedar chest wasn't as heavy as we expected. We did wind up bringing home a desk that we weren't planning on. So that was 65 pounds, or it is 65 pounds. And then the 4 bookcases. And then what else is back there? Just minor things, right?
A small trunk.
Oh yeah, the trunk. I totally remember kicking that thing aside when I saw it in November, and I was like, nah. So, but she wanted it. And then, of course, we filled it up with some stuff. The cedar chest has stuff in it too, right?
Blankets.
Blankets, yeah. So there's some blankets and
A couple of
pillows and things like that. The cats are going to go nuts when they see that stuff. Or not when they see it, but they'll smell it, because they'll smell my mother, and they'll probably get all sniffy and rubby and everything like that. So I ran out of room in the trailer before I met its weight capacity. So now, I don't even know if you can see this. I mean, I prided myself on coming out to drive it all the way across the country with an empty car. The only thing back there was my suitcase right here. And then we stopped at a grocery store. I think she wanted to get lunch or a sandwich or something, or some water.
Some fruit, water.
Oh, some fruit. And I was like, well, yeah, if you see any snackies, go ahead and get me something. So she got me something, and I appreciate it. But now I got like 2 or 3 bags of stuff I got to take back across the country.
I got some booze.
Oh, I didn't know about that. I don't drink, so I don't pay attention to that kind of stuff.
Hard cider, hard seltzer.
Yeah, so now I'm a liquor runner. I have to be playing Smokey and the Bandit with a trailer. I don't know, well, from your angle you can't see what's going on, but I am just being passed by a barrage of motorists, and I'm sure some of them is pissed, particularly that guy, because he came rushing right up on my rear end and then couldn't figure out why he couldn't get around me. And I mean, I'm driving 58, and 58 in a 65, or is it 70? Oh, it's 70.
70.
That's annoying to me, don't get me wrong, but here in California, they endorse the split speed limit, and I hate it, but I'm also going to comply because I'm in a small car towing a trailer with out-of-state tags. I'm not pressing my luck here. So I don't want to talk to any cops for any reason whatsoever. Except for those of you who are subscribed to my channel, I appreciate you being here. So anyway, yeah, so we got everything done in one day, which was nice. Joanne got herself some sunburn. You want to show them the sunburn? I don't even know if how visible it is on camera, but she's very light complected, except for where the red sunburn is.
Our neighbor calls me a vampire because I don't come out a lot during the day.
Yeah, so I mean, I caught some sun too, but I tend to brown up a bit after exposure. So we decided to go to Sequoia National Park this morning. Whoa, what happened? Well, let me tell you what happened. My GoPro has on several occasions just lost footage. It would either error the card or completely corrupt the file. And in this case, on this particular stretch of video with my wife, the footage got corrupted, and so I couldn't even find the file. So there came this point where I was repairing other footage that was corrupted, and I accidentally found her footage in with a file that I recorded 2 days prior, this file that I'm showing you right now. And most of the footage that I've lost has been stuff that I can work around, but this with my wife, this is the first main footage that I have lost, and so now I just have to finish the story now. Hashtag Whiskey Tango Foxtrot GoPro. So basically what happened, where we were picking up with the story was we headed up to the Sequoia National Park. If you watch my previous video, I'll link up here, then you know that I've already been there and photographed a lot of the things that I wanted to see, as well as some things that I didn't want to see. You'll have to see that video if you haven't already seen it. Hashtag jackknife. Anyway, we drove up the mountain, and one of her very first comments was that she felt that those switchbacks and that climb up that mountain was more twisty and more of a challenge for her as a passenger than riding on the tail of the dragon. The tail of the dragon is, they allege to have 318 turns within 11 miles. And some of those turns are, it's an interpretation, because they might take a little bend that does that and call that a turn, where this climb, I can't remember how many miles it is. I'll say 18 just because I can't remember right now, but I will post the real number up here. From the entrance of the Sequoia National Park all the way to the top where the General Sherman Tree is. That's how many miles it is, and I didn't even count the turns, but I'm pretty certain that it's more than 318 turns, and they are real turns, not little bends in the road. Switchbacks, lots of switchbacks. She commented that that was worse for her as a passenger. Now, the speed limit on that road is only 25 miles an hour, so it's not like it's a challenging road to drive, although some people just barely make it 25 miles an hour on that road. But if you're speeding just a little bit, and most of the time I was doing about 30. And 30, you can't do 30 all the way up that thing. I'm sure there are sections of it where you could get up to speed with enough horsepower, but you're going to immediately be diving on the brakes and having to even get into maybe even first gear for some cars to get around the switchbacks. Because all the switchbacks, when you do that 15 mile an hour U-turn, you are turning to go up another incline, and that sometimes second gear isn't low enough in some cars. This car did okay. I climbed those hills. I stayed in second gear most of the time, and so even pulling the trailer, I never left second gear. Well, I mean, I did leave second gear. I got into third in a few stretches, but I just kept it in second gear, and I didn't have to downshift to first, but maybe once. And so the gearing on this car is pretty good for that. And if I decided that I wanted to do some sport driving, I could have. That would have been kind of fun. We didn't stop along all the same attractions that I did on my drive up Friday. When I did the Friday drive, I was passing a lot of these areas at 7 o'clock in the morning. Nobody was there. This shot in particular, it's beautiful in this shot here. But when I came down the mountain Friday afternoon, and then of course when we went back Sunday morning, this area was completely packed. No way were we going to stop there. And there's just more people in the park after, say, 9 or 10 o'clock. So our goal that morning was just to, I just wanted to show her some sights, and then we walked to the General Sherman Tree. So we saw all the stuff in the General Sherman Tree area and took some photos. Of course, I had to have some photos of my wife with me so that it's quote-unquote a family trip. When I set up my tripod to take this photo, I gave a strange impression. This camera, I'm shooting on it right now because I don't trust my GoPro right now. I want to make sure this footage comes through and that I'm able to work on it right away with no surprises. It is a Canon 90D. Some of you know what that is, but for those of you who don't, it is what might be considered a prosumer camera. It is not a professional grade camera, but it's not an entry level point and shoot either. This camera to the average person looks like a professional camera. And before I knew it, I had a string of people asking me to take their pictures. I did it. I guess I'm a nice guy, but as soon as there was a break, I had to pack up and leave. I couldn't stay there all day taking pictures. And I remember thinking about back in the old days, not that I've ever done it, we joke about it, but With film cameras, when you took pictures, you didn't know how they turned out until after you took them to get developed, and then you saw them. And so the joke was, when people bother you to take their pictures, you take their picture, but you cut off all their heads in the frame, and they'll never know it until they go to get the film developed. It's funny in concept to laugh about, but of course I would never do that. These days with digital cameras, you can't do that. I mean, you could, but you won't get away with it quite as fast. So that's just something funny I thought I'd share with you. I don't know how long we spent in the park, because you can't get to General Sherman Tree without being in that park for, say, a couple of hours. So we were in the park for a couple of hours, and I showed her some things. I showed her where I got the car stuck. Completely different road on Sunday. Unbelievable the difference between Friday morning and Sunday morning. Joanne's flight left at 6:20, I think, which meant we had to be at the airport at 4:20, which meant that I got on the road nice and early for my next destination. I will talk about that drive in a future video, and I hope you've enjoyed looking at some of the photos that we took at Sequoia National Park. It's worth the trip. It's probably more crowded in the summer, but if you get up there in the morning, it's less crowded. So arrange to go in the summer when there's probably no snow or ice, and get there early so that you don't have to deal with as many crowds and your photographs turn out a little bit better. As always, I appreciate you watching and spending some time with me. Feel free to ask questions if there's something that you might be interested in me sharing. I'll see you next time. Take care.